Hey, this is Toby. In this video, I will show you how to code a volume profile for the MetaTrader 5 platform in mql5. You can use this for manual trading. It's a pretty cool tool to set, for example, the stop loss. But of course, you can also implement this into your own EA. The code will be available on my website, but of course, I will show you everything for free. This is the end result. We can see we have a look back period here. We can adjust. We can also scroll here in the history, and the volume profile will calculate depending on the visible bars. Of course, we can set different colors and a lot more settings here, but I will get to this later. Okay, so let's switch to the Visual Studio Code editor. Of course, you can also code this in the default MetaTrader 5 editor. And in the first part, we want to create the overall structure and maybe already display here the look back line on the chart. So here I'm in Visual Studio Code and I want to open a old EA. This will be a EA and not a indicator. So I will just copy this file, paste it, and rename this to volume profile like this. And now, first of all, I want to delete all the code here, besides maybe the properties here in the beginning and the first comment. So delete all the code, save this. Now for the properties, you can write whatever you want. I just put my website here and the version 1.0. And the first section, maybe we also write something here above the properties. So properties. Here, maybe we also write a description here. So hashtag property description. And we can maybe just write volume profile just as an example. Okay, now the next section here is for the inputs. So we change this to inputs like this. And let's start with the inputs. For the, as I said, we want to create a look back line in the first part here. So I write a group and let's call this, actually I want to use different character here. No, I want to just copy this one here. So look back line like this, and the first input is the color input. So here input, I always start my inputs with this prefix here, line color, and by default you can say it's color red. Next input is of type integer, and this is for the width of the line. So input line width, and we set this to 2 by default. Next input is for the style of the line. So if you want to have a solid line, for example, or a dashed line, so enum, and this is called, I think it's style. Oh, enum style, line style, input, input line style, and by default we set this to style dash maybe. Yeah, that should be fine. And the last input for now is of type Boolean. And this controls if we want to draw the line into the background or not. So behind the bars or not. So input line back equals false by default. Okay, let's align this. Let's also align those here and write a comment for each one. So here, this is just a line color. Next one is the line width. Next one, line style and draw in background. Okay. So that's it for the inputs for now. Okay, next we want to create the class. For this, I will just paste another comment here and let's call this class. And here we write the keyword class. Now this, for the tutorial, I will use the OOP approach, the object-oriented programming approach. If you're not familiar with this, I explain everything you need to know in my programming course called Beta. But for this video, I will just try to explain everything on the side. Yeah, so if you follow step by step, you will probably also learn a lot if you never coded using a class, for example. So keyword class and the class name. For now, let's just call it C lookback. We will probably change this in a later video, a later part, when we calculate the volume profile. So let's just call this lookback line. And here we write all the variables for our class. The private keyword here, we have one private variable or member of the class, m_name. I always start the members with m_, so I know it's a class member and not just a global variable, for example. Next we have the public space, so public, and here the constructor C lookback line, and here we just set the name to our member, and let's just call this volume profile line like this. So this is the constructor. This is called whenever we create a instance of the class. And we have a few methods here for this class of type void. So create is the first one. And here we have a few parameters, or one parameter of type date time. Let's just call this when. And another one, void to delete the lookback line. So let's call this delete. No parameters here. Another one to refresh. Also with the datetime variable. And a last method here to handle chart events. So on chart event. And here two parameters. A constant integer called ID and a string passed by reference as parameter. If you don't understand everything right now, it's fine, but you can still follow the tutorial step by step, and you will probably learn a lot by just learning by doing. So on chart event, refresh, delete, create. This is all we need right now. In our class, we add a semicolon here. Yeah, right now we are not able to compile, but here we also have a mistake. 2 hashtags. I will delete one, but we are not able to compile because we don't have the event handling functions like on init, on dinit for a expert advisor. So let's also collapse this window again. Okay, so maybe we write all the functions so we are able to compile, just to make sure that we don't have any mistakes. So first of all, the create function here. So of type void, our class name c look back line. This is the namespace of the function, and our function create here. No code for now. Of course, we need the same parameters here. So date, time, when. Next function here is the delete function. So void c look back line delete. Yeah, no parameters for this function or method. Here, next one, refresh. I will just copy this, paste it here, change that. Refresh. And the last one here on chart event with the 2 parameters. Okay. Okay, now we have all the methods here, and before we are able to compile, we need to write the on init, on dinit functions. So for this, we can just write maybe another comment. Let's call it event handling functions. And here, first of all, the on init. This is the built-in function here, and we return init succeeded. Here, then we also want the on dinit function. So also of type, this is of type void, I think, on dinit. And we have here a constant integer called reason. And here we just leave it empty for now. And the last, or the next one is called tick, the tick function. This is called every tick when there's a new tick for the symbol, but it's called on tick. On tick, like this, and the last one here of type void on chart event. This is also a built-in function, constant integer ID. We have constant long, the long parameter, constant double by reference, double parameter, and a constant string, also by reference, string parameter. Okay, and the ID is also, let's check. If I press F1 here, yeah, the ID is not passed by reference, but the long parameter, D parameter, and S parameter. You can also use these parameter names here. Okay. So now let's see if we can compile. Okay, we have one mistake. Member function already defined with different parameters. So the refresh method probably has some parameters, which is the datetime parameter here. So we need to match the parameters here. Let's compile again. Okay, now we compiled successfully without any mistakes. We have our class here. First of all, our properties, our inputs, our class, our methods here, they are still empty, and our event handling functions on init, on dinit, on tick, on chart event. And now in the last step for this first part, we want to fill out these methods and event handling functions. Okay, and the first method we want to write here is the create method. This is used to create the vertical red line on the chart. So here, first of all, we want to check if the line is already on the chart. So we use the object find function. Chart ID is null for the current chart, and the string name is our member m_name. And if this is a negative number, so if this is below 0, let's just check this, what the return value is here for this function. Return value, if successful, the function returns the number of sub window. Okay, and if the object is not found, returns a negative number. Okay, that's what we want to check. If there's no object on the chart, we want to create it. So we call object create, and here the chart ID null, the name, our member, and the type is object underscore v line for vertical line, and sub window 0, the current window. And now for the time and price, we want to set the time here to the parameter when, and the price is 0. This is not important for a vertical line. Okay, let's add a semicolon. So we created the object if it does not exist. And now we also want to set some properties for the object. So we can write object set integer, and again chart ID 0, our name, and now the object property, first of all the color. We have a input for this, so input line color, like this, and I will just copy this a few times. So next property we want to set is the property of the width of the line. We also have an input for this, so input right here. Next property is for the style. We also have an input for the style, input line style. Next property is if we want to draw the line into the background, so behind the bars. We also have our Boolean input for this, and last one, if it's selectable, because the user should be able to select the line and drag it. So if we set this to false, that's not possible, but we want, of course, the user to drag the line, so set this to true. And the last one is the time. So in case here the object is already on a chart, we still want to set the new time for the object. So 0 for the price, and then the time. Okay, I think that's correct. time. Let's check this again. So 2 versions of the function. Property ID. Modifier. Property time. Okay, the modifier number of anchor points. So 0 is, yeah, for a vertical line, it's not important which anchor point we choose. Okay, now actually let's hit compile. Make sure you don't have any mistakes. Before we can test this in the MetaTrader 5 platform, we need to call the create method. So let's, first of all, I want to create a new section here. After our class and all the methods of the class, let's call this global instance or global variables. And here we now of type C look back line, our instant, and let's just call this line. Here now we can use this instant here in the onInit. So line dot create, and for the time we just use the time current like this, and this should create the line. Let's hit compile here. If we don't have any mistakes, we can test it in the MetaTrader 5 platform. This is a new chart here, and I will just drag and drop the volume profile EA on a chart. Here we can see the inputs. Let's start, and yeah, we can see the line is created here at the current time. We can drag the line, so that's fine. Now we also want to delete the line. If I remove the EA, the line stays on the chart. Of course, we also want to delete this from the EA. So let's go here to the onDinit, and here we just delete the line. So we just call line dot delete like this, and in the method delete, we now delete the line with object delete and our name. First of all, the chart ID null and the name m_name. Okay, let's compile again. This should delete the line. Let's check this. I drag and drop it on the chart. The line is here. Now I remove the EA and it deletes the line. Okay, I think that's it for this first part. We already have the overall structure here of our volume profile EA with some inputs. We create already the lookback line, and I hope if this is the first video on object-oriented programming, you understand a little bit how this works. We create an instance here, and then we can call the create method and delete method with the dot operator. Okay, in the next parts, we will continue to code this volume profile. I think it's a pretty awesome tool you can use for your manual trading or algo trading. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. The code will be on my website once we finish the tutorial. And yeah, I will see you in one of the next videos. Have a great week. Bye-bye.